Hi everyone, and welcome to this development update call where we'll discuss the latest progress on Mintlayer protocol. My name is Michael Bille. I work on the business development and Mintlayer, and as always, I'm here with our CTO Ben Marsh to take you through the latest development update from our protocol. Hi Ben, how are you this Monday?
I am very well, thank you. Just trying to avoid the heat, but otherwise well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm still at the sunny Madeira in Portugal, so I'm really good as well. So my weekend was like mostly outside and doing some hiking. So yeah, I'm pretty good. But again, I'm looking forward to this week as always. We have a bunch of things to work on, and we have the GGE coming up very soon. So there's a lot of things going on at the moment, but it's exciting.
Yeah,
How
I
about
agree.
how about the development? Like, are you excited for the new week and the new month coming up as well?
Yeah, of course. So last week we started on something relatively interesting, so I'll go into it in a bit more detail in a bit on the core node. So I spent a chunk of my weekend just reviewing that code. So realistically, my week has already started, as opposed to starting today. But yeah, this coming week should be interesting, and we've got some fun bits planned over the next month or so, particularly on the core node. So yeah, that's where we're doing the particularly challenging stuff at the moment. So that's the stuff that kind of excites me. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Let me just mention like the agenda for today for our listeners. We have like you're gonna discuss like the core development, of course, and then also some of the web wallet and mobile wallet, and also about the GGE token, which we got an audit from Certic last week. So yeah, I'll just give the word to you, Ben, and you can take it step by step, and I might drop in with some questions on the way.
Alrighty, sounds good. So yeah, let's start with the core node, um, because that is the bread and butter of what we do. It's the core business, so to speak. So seems sensible to start there. It's also where the majority of work is happening as well. So yeah. So as I mentioned, we started on some interesting stuff last week. So we've been looking at a new Merkle tree implementation. So the idea of this is, in the short term, it's going to be used for something like Taproot, not quite the same. So we'll call it Taproot with a slight asterisk beside it because it will work slightly differently and do slightly different things. But working on this, and
Can Ben, maybe you just very briefly can tell about what is Taproot?
I mean, it's a relatively um, messy topic to talk about, but essentially it's a way of batching multiple signatures together. Um, that's probably the easiest way to upgrade to explain what the upgrade for Taproot was. And we are planning to do something similar. So we are going to start off doing something very, very similar to Taproot, but very slightly different. And we're looking at a way to expand this to doing multi-proof signatures across it, which is something which has been proposed by the people before, but is not commonly done, is I think the best way to phrase it. So it's sort of an extension of the original ideas of Taproot. So I mean, Taproot it allows you to do slightly more than just multiple signatures. So you can have transactions scrambled together and all these sorts of things. So it's kind of more than what I've defined it as. But yeah, we're planning to use a subset of it to start with, and then over time we will have a superset where we allow other things to happen as well. So this is an area of active development at the moment, which is why I'm being relatively vague, because although we have an idea of what we're going to do at the moment, we may end up doing slightly more than what we're currently planning to do. So I'm going to remain being vague because yeah, it's an active area of research as well as development at the moment. So we're definitely going to do the bits we want to do, but we may end up doing some more as well, which yeah, we will see what happens there as to whether or not it's a sensible decision. Yeah, we'll see. So yeah, that's one of the big things. So we got this multi-sig stuff going on as well. So we're also going to do some old school style multisig with multiple public key stuff. So this is the way it's generally handled in most blockchains. We're going to start off with this in Mintlayer. We're going to start off with old school multisig and then upgrade it over time, because the stuff we're planning with trees is going to be complicated. Although we're starting it now, realistically, there's a lot of formal proofs we need to write before we'll be comfortable sort of going, this is secure. So a couple of us will be doing a lot of maths over the next couple of months. So my gut feeling is that this probably won't, this will be an upgrade at some point in the future. So we started it now, and maybe we'll get lucky and everything falls into place and it will come earlier. But I wouldn't be willing to bet money on it. But so this is why we're working on standard multisig alongside it at the same time, because that will definitely exist in version 1, version 0, however you want to number it. And then yeah, we'll have these cooler things coming in the future, hopefully. Anyway. So yeah, let's stick with the core node for a bit. So there's been a lot more work on the command line wallet. So this is the wallet that will come with the testnet, and I mean, obviously it'll be there with the mainnet as well, but is designed to do all of the key things that you need to run the testnet. So it will let you stake, it will let you send transactions, receive transactions, all of the basic functionality that exists in the testnet will exist in this wallet, and it will be the primary way to stake in the first versions of the mainnet as well. So it's been a lot more work on this. So the back end of it is all merged now, and yeah, so people are just continuing on there. We are slowly but surely coming to a point where it's starting to look mature at this point. There's still a fair amount of work to be done. And it's worth saying that the wallet is something that realistically will probably never be finished. It's one of those things that we have lots of plans to upgrade Mintlayer over the next couple of years, and lots of features planned. And all of these will require updates to the wallet. So yeah, this is going to be a long-term thing where we're probably going to discuss this every month for the next couple of years. Let's be honest.
It sounds good. Sounds good to me. Yeah. Just like step by step and all the updates. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It will be usable relatively soon, but it will be constantly upgraded. As soon as we add a new feature, it means the wallet will probably have to change, depending on what the feature is. But yeah, and at some point we will build a graphical user interface for it. But we figured let's start with the simplest one, because it's going to be quicker to do. We can start playing with the pretty things in the future. So that's roughly what's going on with the wallet stuff. There's been, again, as per usual, lots of work in the P2P stuff. So particularly on the sync manager. Again, this is probably going to be an ongoing thing for the time being, but we're reaching a point of stability there. So a few months ago, you'll remember me saying that we had removed libp2p, one of these dependencies that we were sort of relying on. So we've got the majority of that functionality implemented ourselves now. So now we're just doing the nice bits. So that's going on, but nothing too special. There's been lots and lots of pull requests which have been merged in the proof of stake primitives sort of umbrella, or under that umbrella, I should say, rather than in that umbrella. So there's been some work on the VRF stuff, which is verifiable random functions. These are essentially how we pick who is allowed to produce a block in Mintlayer. So this is the source of randomness in proof of stake. So the general idea is you generate a random number with a proof, and then there's a target, and you have to generate a random number which is below that. It's very similar to how this works in proof of work, except you're not doing work for it. You're just generating a random number. So that is, there's been lots of work on that again. There has also been a fair amount of work on the accounting subsystem. So we have merged a load of changes to the accounting subsystem now. So again, this is the sort of backbone of proof of stake in Mintlayer. So this is how staking works. This is how rewards are paid, or block rewards are paid. So we have this provably secure accounting implementation. And obviously, it's a big job, and it takes a lot of testing because this is sort of the backbone of all of the consensus, realistically. So it's been a while, but yeah, for the meanwhile, I think that's probably fairly secure, fairly stable. Sorry, and we probably won't be doing too much on that in the short term. There might be a few things that come up, but realistically, we'll be moving on to the other parts of proof of stake. So proof of stake is coming along nicely. It's still the biggest open thing in the current code base. There are lots of other small things that would be nice to do sometime soon, but this is the big open thing that needs to be done before we can release the testnet. Talking other big open things, we've also been working on block production a lot. So this is not as big a job as the consensus, not by a long shot. But the block production has been coming along nicely. So there's been a few smaller PRs over the last couple of weeks, and there should be another bigger pull request very soon, which more or less finishes that off. I'd expect that to be done by the time we speak next time. I would expect at least the majority of that to be done. There might still be a few small things, but we're heading towards finalizing that. Again, in the meantime, there'll probably be some changes in the future. Other than that, there's been lots of small changes to the code base, just tidying things up. People noticing that there's a nice way to do something, people adding tests, people changing the way we compile code, things like this. So there's been lots of these small little janitorial jobs, I suppose is the best way to phrase it, just little cleanup jobs, which make the code base just a bit nicer and a bit more maintainable over. I mean, looking back at code is never the world's funnest of jobs, and it's even less fun when it's an open source project and it's been written by someone who, let's say 5 years time, 5 years ago, who you have no idea how to get in contact with them. It's, yeah, the more readable the code base, the better. So this will always be an ongoing thing as well. So it's been lots of these little changes, lots of small pull requests recently, just cleaning up the code base a bit. That's more or less what's been going on in the core node over the last month or so. Truth be told, that the next month will probably be relatively similar. So over the next month, I would expect mainly the same things to be worked on. There's also going to be some changes to the mempool in the next month. So we have been doing some work on that. There hasn't really been much going on in the last month for it, but there's going to be over the next month or so. So next month we can talk about that a little bit. But I think most of the other things will be relatively similar. So lots of work on the Merkle trees and multisig stuff, lots of work on block production, wallet work. Yeah. So there's some nitty gritty, interesting bits going on, particularly with consensus and the Merkle trees and multisig, and some slightly more normal work going on in the core nodes. But yeah, that's roughly where we're at. So you mentioned, let's move on to something else, but you mentioned that we received the audit from Certic for the TGE token.
Yeah.
So yep, that's finished now. So we've been through the audit process for that with Certic. The audit report is available online for anybody who has an interest in going and having a vote through it. And yeah, that's done realistically. The token is
maybe
finished.
you can. Yeah, maybe you can advise what kind of smart contract they audited Certic.
In what sense?
No, kind of what's the purpose of the smart contract for the.
The smart contract here is the token that's going to be used for the TGE, the MLT20 token, which represents MLT on Ethereum. So this is going to be the token used for the TGE. So we went through the audit essentially to prove out that the functionality of the token was secure. So there are a few bits, particularly around the vesting, for example, which are not 100% trivial. So these were the sorts of things we cared about getting audited in particular to make sure that this worked the way that it was meant to work. So yeah, that's that's done now. Realistically, that's just finished. That token will be more or less ignored until we need it now. It will just sit there and do not a lot. We are currently working on well, I say working on, it's almost finished, but there are a few small bits to do on the infrastructure surrounding that token. So like the DApp and things like this, which will allow you to interact with the token. And particularly when it comes to the vesting, it will allow you to get information about your vesting schedule, these sorts of things. So there is kind of work on the periphery going on, but the token itself is, it's kind of done. It's just going to sit there.
That's good news.
Yeah, it's nice to
Like,
just finally take it off.
Step by step, and then you finally can put it aside and focus on the next task.
It is a nice feeling. So yeah, as I said, there's lots of things on the periphery going on there. So there's been some more work on the launch side, things like this. So yeah, there's just lots of these little things going on. Then we have the two wallets. We have the browser extension wallet and we have the mobile wallet. So the big thing we have been working on, particularly in the web wallet, is continuing on with the entry stuff, which there is an open pull request for now to merge that. So that's essentially finished. So I would expect there to be a release of that relatively soon. And we have started working on the hardware wallet integration for both. But well, technically we've started on the browser extension wallet, but a lot of the same code will be reused for the mobile wallet. So although technically it's being done on one code base, it kind of technically applies to both at the same time, because we can use a large chunk of the code elsewhere as well. So we're going to start off with Ledger and Trezor integration. We may look at doing something else in the future, but given, I think, like I would guess 95% of people who have a hardware wallet have one of those two, that is going to be the first thing we focus on, is supporting these two. And yeah, we'll see. If people want other things in the future, we can look at doing it, but we won't do it for the time being. Yeah. But yeah, so that work has started. I don't know exactly off the top of my head what the expected deadline for that is. I know it exists, but I just can't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, there's not too much to be done there, in all honesty. So I expect that to be done relatively quickly. Although we are currently fighting some dependency issues. So some libraries that we rely on are being a little bit annoying, we'll phrase it that way, and changing what they're doing, which means we're kind of scrambling to handle that at the moment. So this is as of late last week. So this might be relatively soon, maybe not, because we have slightly more important things to fix at the moment. So this has been put on hold for hopefully not too long, a couple of days or so, but we'll see. My crystal ball isn't overly helpful when it comes to these things. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. But there's not too much to do, so hopefully it should be relatively quick. But it's kind of out of our hands at the moment until we have fixed problems created for us by other people. The joys of software. So yeah, what else is going on with the browser extension wallet? Is there anything? I think the release had happened the last time we spoke anyway. I'm getting my dates a bit messed up in my head at this point, but it's released on all browsers now, I think, at this point. So, well, except Safari. So we don't have a Safari version yet, but we have a Firefox version. We have a Chrome version, which technically is also the Edge version, and the Brave version, because it's technically the same thing. But yeah, so that's done, and there have been a few small bug fixes which are going to be released relatively soon as well. And we're also looking at doing some changes to the way we handle some things in the browser extension based on some feedback that we've received from other people. So yeah, there'll probably be an update relatively soon with some small changes, and then the entropy generation and things like this coming after that. I think that's probably the way the releases will go, but we'll see. The mobile wallet. So the mobile wallet is also dealing with these other people causing us problems in our dependencies. So that's the focus of both teams at the moment. But realistically, there's been a few cleanups in the code base in the mobile wallet. There's an open pull request at the moment to the entropy generation stuff. So yeah, that's again, it's sort of there at this point. I think we still need to finish the UX testing on it, so it's fine from a technical perspective, but we will essentially, when I say UX testing, what I essentially mean is we'll release it to a bunch of people who haven't worked on it internally, and just shout at us if you don't like how it works. Is essentially what we'll do. And then we'll get feedback from, it's always easier to give feedback on something that you haven't worked on yourself. Because if you didn't like how it works, you probably wouldn't have done it that way in the first place. So it's very difficult to dislike something you've done yourself, realistically. So this is the idea. We'll do, I guess, like an alpha release, something like this, internally. Let other people have a bit of a moan at us, and make any changes we think we need, and then move on from there. But yeah, we're heading towards that point very rapidly at this point. I would expect that to happen very, very soon. Is there anything else going on in the mobile wallet? I know there's a few open pull requests at the moment. So there's definitely some other things going on, but I think a lot of it is just small changes. Like we have changed some of the tests we did over the last couple of months. I've been talking about adding this test framework. So there's been a little bit of work changing some of those tests and updating them a bit, and these sorts of things. But lots of small things going on in a mobile wallet is, I think, the best way to phrase it. So yeah, for web and mobile wallets, I think over the next month or so, the primary focus will be fixing our current dependency issues. So that is the focus for everyone at the moment, myself included. And yeah, once that's done, we can get back to normal, so to speak. And that's when we'll start doing these internal releases of the entropy stuff. So hopefully people won't have too much to say, and everyone will be happy, and we can move on and release that. But I'm perfectly happy with people complaining. That's kind of why we ask people. And yeah, then there will be lots of work on the hardware wallet stuff. We're also going to work on the multi-sig stuff in the wallets soon. So that may come before the release of the hardware wallet stuff, because there's a bit more to test, and relying on other people for the hardware wallet stuff, i.e. relying on wallets not having bugs and these sorts of things, is going to be a little bit more tricky. So the multi-sig stuff may get released first, but again, we'll see. I wouldn't like to put any money on one or the other, realistically. So they're both going to happen in the relatively near future. There's been work on both so far. Multi-sig is easier, if I'm honest. I mean, that's my background, dealing with cryptography, so I'm always going to say this. Dealing with these sorts of things are a lot easier, whereas dealing with hardware dependencies from other people is always going to be a little bit trickier. So although on the surface, I guess it's technically easier, I think it's going to be a little bit trickier as we move forward. But yeah, both are going to happen, and both will probably be worked on in parallel as we go. And yeah, that's more or less the next month or so. Unless something big comes up and we need to change something, which could well happen. Again, my crystal ball can't predict everything, but yeah, I think that is probably it.
Amazing. Thank you, Ben, for the update. And it sounds like there's a lot of things going on right now, and a lot of tasks who are like almost wrapping up, finishing up, and the next are ready as well. So super interesting. In regards to all the tasks you have like coming up as well, interesting task. Do you still see like the testnet in Q2 as expected?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that this is our sort of aim. So the way I look at the testnet is we'll release it when it's ready, as opposed to trying to put a strict deadline on it. So when we release the testnet, it needs to be two things in my mind. One, it needs to work properly. So everything that we plan for it to do, it needs to do correctly. And secondly, and perhaps most importantly, it needs to be secure. And the second of those is the reason that we're taking our time with this. So proving things are secure takes time. It means taking certain ideas and formally verifying them, which can be mean doing maths, it could be doing something else. Or for slightly simpler things, it means writing a lot of tests. And both of these things take time, which is why we are taking our time with this. So although I would like to sit here and say, yeah, definitely 100%, the honest answer is, let's see. The most important thing to me is when we release the testnet, it is one, functional, and two, secure. So yeah, they are the two things I'm aiming for, as opposed to a strict deadline.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. Again, like we have mentioned it several times before, like the security is super important for us. Everything we're going to release is going to be proper tested and make sure everything is in good order as best that they can be in the coding. So yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, there comes a point where if you're going to do something, particularly when you're dealing with financial matters, you kind of have to do it properly. There's no point rushing things and skipping over things and just assuming things are going to be okay, because that's how things go wrong. And we've seen this all the time in the world of cryptocurrencies, where people mess things up, they rush, things break, and I don't want us to be in the same situation. So we're going to take our time and do it properly. That's more important to me than anything else.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that, Ben. I totally agree. And yeah, I look forward to hearing more about the task you're working on now. I'll want to hear more about that next month. So, but yeah, anything you want to add up here before closing down for today?
I don't think so. I think I've definitely hit everything on my list, and I think I got everything on my list. So I think I'm good.
Otherwise, we save it for the next call next month.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for taking time for this call, Ben. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Still, it's nice to be here.
That's all we got for you guys today. And to all who joined us, thank you so much for your support. And please remember to join our official channel on Telegram, Twitter, and also Discord, where we're going to be more active on very soon. And yeah, as we are still looking for new team members to join us, so please take a look at our website and apply for the open position if interesting. And lastly, yeah, we have our GG coming up very soon in about 3 weeks. So almost there. It's going to be super exciting. So yeah, thank you all for today. I'm Michael, and thank you for joining Ben and I on this development update call. And yeah, I will see you next time. Thank you very much all.